Hey guys, and welcome to my channel. My name is Kaylee Jean, and I wanted to share a quick video today about the Mercury retrograde that's coming up in Pisces, share a few of my thoughts, and hopefully kind of keep this video somewhat brief but very informative with the intention of kind of giving you maybe some ideas and insights into how this energy could affect you and also like what you can get out of it and really how you can work the best with that energy of this upcoming transit. And this is a mundane transit. We're all experiencing it somewhere in our chart. Mercury retrograde in Pisces is pretty significant. Mercury in traditional astrology is said to be in detriment and in fall in the sign of Pisces because Mercury is both the ruler of the opposite sign of Virgo and it's also exalted in the sign of Virgo. So the detriment and fall comes from Mercury's rulership and exaltation in Virgo, and Pisces is sort of like the antithesis of the Virgo energy. So it's just a really quick explanation on like why it's said to be in kind of a rough spot with Mercury, but you can also really tell if you're familiar with some of the energies of astrology and the symbolism. Mercury is a planet that really likes to get into the details. It likes to communicate. It represents the mind, messages, communications. And Pisces is like it's a very feeling oriented sign, whereas Mercury is a very kind of intellectual planet. And so when you kind of put those two together, you tend to get, even if you're not looking at the traditional dignities and rulerships and exaltations and all of that, you can kind of see how, even just those parts of ourselves, right? Like our most empathetic, compassionate side of ourself is not necessarily always going to agree with our mental side, our highly intellectual, logical, left brain side of ourselves is basically not always going to be on board with what the heart wants or what our emotions are telling us. So you can kind of see already that there is a little bit of a clash here, but I personally feel like Mercury in Pisces can be a really nourishing placement for the planet Mercury. I feel like a lot of times we, especially in today's day and age, we're just really fast about everything. We're always looking at social media. We're constantly being bombarded with messages and marketing and information. And I think that one of the best ways that we can utilize just the energy of Mercury in Pisces is almost like a social media detox, for example. So if anybody's kind of planning that, or if you're wanting to kind of take a little bit of a break, or maybe you want to not spend time on social media, maybe one of the 7 days of the week, I think this could be a really good time to start to implement that, or limiting the hours that you spend online, doing things like that. I think that Mercury in Pisces can be a really nourishing placement for us to kind of return to ourselves and our own value system, because when Mercury's more kind of dignified in some of the other signs, that's a really great thing a lot of the time for our mindset and for skills and for learning and for all of these new forms of information that we might be encountering and all of that. But Mercury in Pisces kind of helps us learn from ourselves, if that makes sense. It's like turning us inward. Our mental landscape is going to be more focused on what maybe our body or our emotions or our heart might be telling us. So that's something that I think we can really get a lot of juice out of from this transit. And we have this upcoming Mercury retrograde. So I want to talk about that specifically. Mercury is going to be going retrograde on February 16th. A lot of times with Mercury retrograde, you can get this kind of overall sense, no matter what sign it's in, of reviewing things, reviewing kind of contracts, reviewing details. Our energy, again, sort of turns more inward into this process of reflection rather than kind of trying to make things happen or kind of seeking out something that's like totally, brand new for us. We want to more kind of turn inward and ask ourselves if our values are aligned with like the way that we're living. And a lot of times in traditional astrology, Mercury is seen as a planet that loses some strength when he's in retrograde. And because we now have all of these like horoscopes and daily conversations all the time about astrology, Mercury retrograde, like the definition of it has changed over time. But even in some of the oldest texts about astrology, you can read that a Mercury retrograde in a chart, for example, in a horary chart, is seen as a complication as far as whatever Mercury represents in the chart, whatever Mercury's trying to do. If Mercury's retrograde, he's going to not be able to accomplish that in the way that he normally would want to. And I did get a comment from someone a while ago asking why Mercury is a he. I personally just use the he language for Mercury, even though it is a very, it's a planet that has kind of both genders or neither. It's like a very mental planet that doesn't necessarily have like a super strong energy, male or female. It kind of can go anywhere really, but I just use that language because it's easier, and also because in mythology the god Mercury and the god Hermes as well, which is also really closely tied, is talked about as a he. So that's the only reason I say that. Don't get stuck on that, it's just how I talk about it. But anyway, so Mercury retrograde in Pisces, I feel like this is going to bring in actually somewhat of a thoughtful energy for all of us. I do actually still feel that we're going to be able to get things done though during this Mercury retrograde. And the reason I say that is because we're going to be getting some positive aspects from planets in Capricorn still. So we have a sextile from Jupiter to Neptune going on during the time of this retrograde, and Jupiter's in Capricorn, Neptune is in Pisces there with Mercury. And Jupiter and Neptune are the traditional and the modern rulers of Pisces. So they do share some kind of an affiliation in my mind. When I look at this, I feel like because the sextile is a friendly aspect and we're getting Jupiter kind of contacting a planet that's in his own traditional sign, I feel like this is going to show, to me it shows that essentially, despite the fact that we are in a Mercury retrograde period, when Mercury is in detriment and in fall in Pisces, what that actually means to me with the positive aspects from Capricorn is that we're still going to be able to build things up. We're still going to be able to strengthen things, because Capricorn is the sign of, the builder. It's the sign of, if I were to imagine, like a house, basically, and like that all the signs of astrology pertain to some element of the house, I would say that Capricorn is maybe like the scaffolding, right? It's sort of like the bones of the house. It's the frame, it's the bones, it's the stuff that's holding the house together, but that you don't necessarily see from, when you're inside the house and it's all finished. And Pisces, if I were to think of like what Pisces is in a house, it's almost like either the altar, like the spiritual altar, or it's maybe the artwork on the walls that is kind of transcendent, or that brings the feeling that you're looking for. It's kind of raising the vibration and the energy in the home. And so if you kind of mash these two things together, these ideas generally of positive aspect from, Jupiter in Capricorn, and also later Mars in Capricorn during this retrograde period, we're getting these kind of helpful influences from a sign or from a place in the zodiac that is constructive, right? But it's going into Pisces, so it's like our spiritual self, our emotional well-being, how we feel that we're contributing to the world, our emotional set points on a regular basis, like basically the emotional landscape of our life. That's what is going to potentially be getting some of this restructuring energy going on. And it is constructive, although some of us, we could definitely be tearing down some old structures, maybe even psychologically letting go of beliefs and things like that, which I actually do have a couple of dates that I wrote down for specifically when we could definitely experience some of that mental freedom, basically breaking through belief systems that have been holding us back, letting go finally of something that is like more of a negative thought process that's active within us. All of these things can be helpfully influenced by this transit, but here's the thing, I think we have to really put some time into it. I think we need to be willing to sit with ourselves in this energy and embrace maybe some silence in our lives this month in February and into the very beginning of March, as Mercury is retrograde, and then he'll actually be stationing direct around March 6th. So this is a time where we may feel like through our own intentional actions or through circumstances that our life is quieter for some reason. Maybe you have plans to do something social and those plans get delayed, or maybe you have plans to phone a friend and they have to cancel last minute. So you're, planning to have this time maybe where you're going to be interacting, and then all of a sudden it's like you have this 2-hour period where you don't have to interact at all and you just have the silence and the quietness around you. And I think that that can actually be really nourishing and useful and helpful for us, okay? Because we're so overwhelmed with information right now, and more than we've ever been as a species. It's more and more every year. We are overwhelmed with information, we're overwhelmed with news and things that bombard us and that freak us out and that are designed to sort of shock us, clickbait titles on videos and all of these kind of news stories coming out that are really intense. And I think that one of the best ways that we can kind of work with this energy is sort of to create some sort of a container in our life that allows us to kind of filter a little bit of that information overload, and doing that in whatever way makes the most sense for you and feels right for you. Definitely, it has to be very personal. Obviously, with Mercury and Pisces, it's got to be true to you and what feels right to you. But if you embrace that, you could really get your mind and your heart kind of working in a really beautiful synergy, especially if you're like most people, where your mind is sort of off running and ruminating and your heart's kind of very much there, but there isn't necessarily always that super strong link, especially just because of the way our society is set up. It's not really set up to facilitate that. We have to kind of create that for ourselves. So that's what I feel this transit can be all about for many of us. I wanted to share some specific dates with you guys. So the new moon in Pisces on February 23rd is going to be pretty significant. We have Mercury conjunct that new moon. So Mercury in the sky is going to be with the sun and the moon, all in Pisces. So it's a really strong energy coming out for Pisces at that new moon. And then we also have Mars at 4 degrees of Capricorn. So Mars is going to be sextiling from Capricorn to Pisces and sending, Mars has good dignity in Capricorn as well. Mars is an exaltation in Capricorn. So again, we have this kind of positive influence, like I was saying before, with Jupiter, being the dispositor of the planets in Pisces from a traditional perspective. That shows positive energy coming from that connection. When we have an exalted Mars in a sextile to this new moon, that's very spiritual, it's very quiet, it's very Piscean, but we also, with that Mars influence, that's going to be something that motivates us. I feel like that I feel is the energizing force within us, almost kind of saying like, how can we contribute more? Like, how can we show up better? How can we kind of absorb these new meditations and these new conclusions that we're coming to with all this mercurial Piscean energy? How can we channel that into something real? That's really where the energy is going to be, I feel, with that new moon. It's going to be very, very deep, but at the same time, with Mars and Capricorn, it's going to be motivating us to take practical actions that can help ourselves and others. So that's going to be pretty profound, I feel, for many of us, that new moon. And if you have anything in early degrees of the water signs or the earth signs, there's going to be, energy from that specifically for you. There's going to be, mostly positive energy, I would say. I want to say, like, your energy being revitalized, I guess, and sort of cleansed, because the Pisces is the last sign. So, and it's the most watery sign in my mind. So it's like after we kind of go through the whole zodiac, then we get to Pisces, and it's this purge, it's this cleansing, it's this releasing of what no longer serves us, or it's this releasing of anything that's untrue, right? The water is kind of washing away any gunk from that whole zodiacal process of growth. If you look at it like that, that's one way that you can sort of conceptualize, the Pisces energy. So this new moon could definitely bring in a feeling of being cleansed, but at the same time, that feeling of being cleansed, or literally cleansing your physical body, for example, with going on a cleanse or doing some kind of thing to kind of help, your physical body release toxins, or even stored up emotions and all of that. With the Mars in Capricorn, it's kind of providing this quick burst of like, wow, there's more that I can do with this new energy. There's more that I can accomplish. I feel liberated in a sense from this gunk that was holding me back. And now I have all of this energy to put into other things. So I'm definitely seeing that as a continuing theme throughout some of the astrology that we've had going on this month, actually, following the beginning of the year, which did have some rockier energies for all of us, and globally with those eclipses. There was a lot that happened around the solar eclipse and then the lunar eclipse a couple weeks later. Many people had just incredible changes and unexpected things happening around that time. And so I feel like all of these things that are sort of building up right now, especially after this most recent full moon in Leo that we had, the energy is trending towards kind of getting revved up again. Or like in my mind, when I look at the astrology, I see, kind of re-grounding ourselves in our spiritual pursuits, figuring out what feels true for us at this time, right? Because that's a continual process. What feels true for you today may not necessarily feel true for you next week or next year. So it's important to recognize that, but at the same time, there is something about the energy of this Mercury retrograde in Pisces that's very much about what feels true for you right now, and recognizing that and validating that and honoring that. Even if it doesn't make total sense to your like purely logical mind, your logic brain is going to be more open to the feeling-oriented sense of reasoning, right? That is going to be a process that's more facilitated at this time. So you can use that to your advantage. Like I said before, like getting into the silence, embracing maybe some solitude, embracing music as well. Music is going to be so transformative during this retrograde, I feel. We're going to be really sensitive to music. It would be a great time to work on art. It would be a great time to work on music if you're a musician. So that, I think, is the best way to take advantage of this energy. Mercury is going to be stationing direct, like I said, around March 6th. So you're going to have this time period where he's going to then, once he's direct, he's going to go back through Pisces. So he went into Aquarius at the end of the month, and then he's going to go back into Pisces, but direct this time. So we're going to have this retrograde period where we're going to be absorbing all of these inner thoughts and emotions and kind of making, strategic plans for ourselves as a result of those conclusions. And then when Mercury goes forward again in Pisces, I think that's also going to bring in some additional insights and some kind of closing remarks on these new conclusions that we're coming to. And all of this, by the way, is not independent or separate from everything that's been going on so far in 2020. All of this is connected, and the beginning of 2020 has been very unpredictable, very strange, and rough for a lot of people. So I feel like this really is that time period of where we're getting self-compassion for ourselves and we're getting compassion for others. We are seeing our collective sense of humanity in a new light. We are probably going to be finding ways to be easier on ourselves and others as a result of all of this unpredictability and these reminders of our mortality that we've had in the beginning of 2020 with so many different things. We've had reminders globally of our own mortality and of the frailty of life. And that's actually a really beautiful thing because it really helps you separate the wheat from the chaff. When you have that realization of, wow, we are actually fragile human beings and things can change so quickly, you really start to see the beauty of life. You start to look at the people around you with more deep and powerful, transcendent appreciation for them as they are now and as they've been every moment that you've known them and every moment that you get to spend with them. In the future, you appreciate it just that much more because you're not like dreaming anymore. Like when you don't have that kind of assumption, you're way more grateful for everything. And that makes everything easier because things that you used to get upset about, things that we used to be more frustrated by or that we would let ruin our day, just naturally don't ruin our day because we're like, well, I'm here. And you just feel this deeper sense of awe at like the fact that things are as good as they are. It's just like this really pure energy of appreciation that I think that is one of the positives that can come out of all of the unpredictability, the challenges, and the instability that we've been seeing globally as a result of those eclipses happening right around the same time as the Saturn-Pluto conjunction, which, by the way, is still very much an influence. They're within a few degrees of each other. This is going to be going on for a while, but I do see us kind of finding our way, our authentic way as individuals to walk through, this energy and to find, our own path, essentially. One of the best ways that you could use this Mercury in Pisces energy, this retrograde period coming up, is through working with tarot and the occult sciences and spirituality. And in that same vein, the Tarot Self-Therapy course is running again this month, and we do have a few spots left, so I will be putting the information to the Tarot Self-Therapy course below. That's actually how I am going to be using this Mercury retrograde energy in Pisces for me personally. This course really takes you through all of the brass tacks of actually reading tarot effectively, but it goes so much further in the sense that we are looking at tarot from a self-healing perspective, specifically a self-therapeutic way of working with your cards is, for me personally, one of the best ways that I do get in touch with my own internal energies, especially like I've been saying throughout this video, when I do have a lot going on, or I have information overload, or I've been, looking outside of myself too much with social media, comparing myself to other people, or feeling frustrated that I haven't had enough time to myself. A lot of times what actually helps bring me back into that state of inner alignment is my self-therapeutic work that I do for myself with my cards. And so that's what this whole course is based on. It contains the most up-to-date practices, tools, and tips that I personally have learned and used as a tarot reader professionally over the years, but also as a personal practitioner, doing tarot work for myself to help me understand the root of, for example, my anxiety. Tarot has been there to help me that entire time. And so that's what this course is all about, is really, it's a deep dive, for sure. It's a deep dive into tarot, but specifically from a self-therapeutic perspective, where we're really focusing on how you can actually give a reading to yourself without feeling discouraged by the cards, right? Or without kind of getting stuck and thinking like, whoa, did I pull the right cards? I don't know what this means, or this looks scary. That's counterproductive in my mind. The way that I use the cards is almost as if I'm communicating with a counselor kind of part of myself. And it's almost like having a conversation with a really supportive friend or a really awesome counselor, because you get these new questions arising as you look at the deck. You have new ways of looking at your life situation, especially the ones that are troubling you. This is something that I just keep coming back to over and over again as a creator, as a person who needs healing regularly, and as somebody who is a practitioner, you know, with tarot and divination in general. This course is really close to my heart in all of those areas. So if you'd like to participate with us, I will put the information and the link below. We do have, like I said, a couple of spots left, but they are filling up really, really quick. So definitely check that out if you are looking for a spiritual practice to kind of work with and to do some self-healing and some reflection, as well as learn the cards and really go deeper with your relationship with tarot. That concludes my remarks on Mercury and Pisces. I really wanted to make some more videos that were all general insights into the astrology that's going on. So please let me know in the comments if you enjoy this video. I would absolutely love to hear from you. If you want to see more of these, please let me know in the comments. That always makes me smile to hear from you guys, and it also genuinely really helps support my channel. So if you get something useful out of the readings I do or the astrological information I share or anything else, leaving a quick comment goes a long way towards reciprocating any positive energy that you want to just kind of send back to me. If you get something useful, leaving a comment, giving this video a thumbs up, all of that is amazing for my channel. It supports the channel's growth in the algorithms, and it helps other people to see this information, or at least have the opportunity to click on it if it seems like something that they would be interested in. So thank you so much for watching, guys. I hope you have an amazing rest of your day. I hope you really get something beautiful and nourishing and useful out of this Mercury retrograde coming up, and I will talk to you later. Bye.